Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today. As you know, my name is Detective Soderman, and today we are preparing for March, which is National Women's History Month. And we thought, what a better way and what a better time to celebrate women in policing. So you guys all know that I am the recruiting detective here at the Gilbert Police Department, but I don't typically give a little bit more information about myself. Today, being women in policing, I actually get to be part of the answer panel, not just the person asking the questions. So we'll just do real quick introductions. To start us off, since I'm already talking, again, my name is Carrie Soderman. I've been with Gilbert PD for 16 years. I've been a member of the patrol teams. I've been a school resource officer and a special victims unit detective, currently assigned, as you know, to recruiting. I've been a peer mentor, a field training officer, a member of the Awards and Recognition Committee, and I'm currently the co-chair of the Employee Relations Committee that works on resolving issues here within the department and communication between all levels of the department and the town. Outside of work, I am also a wife and a mother of 2 wonderful children. Lieutenant, with me today is Lieutenant Maria Gunter, and she'll tell you a little bit about herself.
Okay, Carrie already introduced me, so I'll just go right into it. I've been with Gilbert PD for 21 and a half years, a total of 22 and a half years in law enforcement. I started out like everyone else in patrol. That's pretty much where you learn the basics of police work. I've been very fortunate to have been able to be a part of various specialty assignments. I was on the bike team, I was a school resource officer, I was a financial crimes detective, I was a recruit training officer out at the academy, a lead officer, a detective in internal affairs, and I got to do all that as an officer, so it kept me from being bored, and just being active and kind of learning continuously. Eventually I was promoted to sergeant, where I went back to patrol. Anytime you get promoted, you go back to the bottom of the food chain, and so I went back to patrol, working weekend graves, did that for a couple years, and then I was selected to be the sergeant over the internal affairs division and our hiring unit. And then from there, I went to school resource officer program and was there until I was promoted to lieutenant. As a new lieutenant, I went back to patrol, back to weekend graves, and I currently oversee our detention facility, teleserve, quartermaster, and fleet.
So what I'm hearing is you're not really busy.
Exactly.
So that's what she does at work, what she's been doing. She's an amazing asset to our department, but you're not just involved at the department, but tell us a little bit about you personally outside of work.
Sure. Well, I am a native of Arizona. You probably don't hear that very often, but I am. I have 2 beautiful children, and I had them both while being employed here at the Gilbert Police Department. And I got to give a little shout out to Gilbert right now, because we've truly come a long way. We currently have an infant at work program where you can bring your baby to work for, I believe, up to 12 weeks.
Correct.
And then now the town pays you to stay at home with your child for the first 8 weeks. So we have truly come a long way, and as a mother, I greatly appreciate these added benefits.
Absolutely, and the great thing about that benefit is it's not only for mothers, but also for fathers as well. So no pressure. Officer Dunn is here with us as well. Lieutenant Gunter has quite the resume, and I know that you're a little bit newer to our department, but tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
I'm quite a bit newer, but I'm Officer Sarah Dunn. I've been with the Gilbert Police Department for 5, going on 6 years. I started on patrol just like everybody else in the department does. Detectives, supervisors, everybody has to start on patrol. When I worked on patrol, my specialty and my focus was DUI enforcement and narcotics investigations. So the first few years, I received a lot of advanced training for impaired driving, interdiction, and drug investigations. From patrol, I then went to the bike unit, just like Lieutenant Gunter was on for a little bit. I worked mostly in our downtown bar district as it has slowly started to grow and become bigger. Last year, I was selected to be the first female canine handler in our department, and that's where I'm currently working, is in our canine unit, handling a dual-purpose dog Canine Natty.
So you guys have both been on the bike unit, and fun fact about me, I tried to be on the bike unit and sprained my ankle in the first day of training. So thank you guys for representing on the wheels. Let's talk a little bit about your inspiration to come here and join law enforcement and see if maybe that resonates with someone who's watching today. So let's start with you, Lieutenant. What inspired you to come and be part of that 12%?
Well, I think growing up, I was always a very active kid. I played sports in high school and in college, and so law enforcement just kind of seemed like a natural progression for me. I wanted to continue to be a part of a team. I wanted to continue to have fun, and law enforcement is it's a very noble profession, but it's very rewarding.
Absolutely.
And so
Awesome. I like that tie into the sports. It is very much a team. You're actually assigned to a team. We call it a team, your patrol team. So very much, that's a great tie-in. And what about you, Officer Dunn? What inspired you to come and join us?
So I don't have any law enforcement or police officers in my family, but we do have a couple of attorneys in my family, so they're involved in the legal system that way. And I have military veterans in my family. I was actually an Air Force brat myself growing up, so public service was always a big part of who my family was and our family identity and how I was raised. It was always emphasized to give back to your community and, kind of like the Boy Scouts, leave things better than you first found them, right?
Right.
So at my last job, I actually had a lot of coworkers that were retired police departments from all over the country. And I had some friends that were currently active law enforcement here in the Valley. And just spending more time around them, I finally think that I figured out how I wanted to serve, because growing up I never knew what I wanted to do to kind of give back to the community as a whole, whether it was military service or something else. And so after thinking about it for a few years, I finally decided to kind of take that plunge and take on the challenge.
Awesome.
And I think it has a lot to do with, my family's public service, and then having those friends that had done the job and were still currently doing the job.
Yeah, awesome. And obviously it's working out great for you as well. So I'm a little bit different than both lieutenant and officer here. So I did grow up in law enforcement. My family originally emigrated here to America back in the early 1900s. And every generation of my family here in America has had one or more police officers serving their local community. And proud to say that currently my sister and I both are representing our generation. So we are both part of that 12% here. So for me, it was a family lifestyle, sort of like your family serving in the military. We served our community. So it was just, for me, it was very normal. So there are all different ways that you, or all different reasons you may want to join law enforcement. None is more appropriate or better or worse than the other. So whatever speaks to you for your reason to wanting to join, let that inspire you and come tell your story as well. So what advice do you ladies have? So our experience is a little bit different than a male's experience just because of the numbers. So if there is a female considering a career here in law enforcement, and we'll start with you this time, officer, what advice could you give to a female about coming here and giving it a try?
So a career in law enforcement, like Lieutenant Gunter said, is noble. I remember vividly during my pre-academy when she was still a sergeant, she told me that this was the noblest profession that you could do. And over the past 5 to 6 years, she's 100% correct. This is the most noble profession that there is. So it's not a career that I think is a decision that should be made lightly, because it has so many potential ramifications and implications on your personal life, on your family life. So I think it needs to definitely be discussed with the people that are closest to you, whether that's your parents, your siblings, a spouse, children that you might already have coming into the career. It needs to be discussed with them. That way you have a good support system at home. That being said, if you've thought about it and you've considered it and you truly are passionate about doing the work, I would 100% encourage you to apply.
Fantastic. And Lieutenant, what advice would you give?
And I would say, much like she said, but you also want to educate yourself, maybe talk to people who are already in law enforcement. If you can, arrange for a ride-along. Gain as much knowledge, because it is a commitment. It's a lifestyle, and it isn't anything that should be taken lightly. We bear great responsibility in carrying out our duties. And so, I would say male or female, you have to be in it for the right reasons. You have to be willing to be a public servant. there is no room for any sense of entitlement in this profession, and so you have to be committed. For women specifically, I would say if you're considering it, but you're worried about your size, your strength. I'm 5'4", 100 pounds. Okay, maybe not 100.
I'm
A
all,
little
ooh,
more.
she went there, she said
A
it.
little more.
I'm not saying mine.
But
Nope.
but it's very doable. You know, our biggest tool for any officer is your verbal de-escalation skills. And so if you're just worried about, well, am I big enough? Am I strong enough? You have to believe in yourself first and foremost, and the rest you can get over, you can compensate for, and you're not alone. You have brothers and sisters in blue who are a call away, a transmission away from being there for you, so don't let that be the obstacle for you.
There was a study done by the University of San Diego that talked about some of the benefits that they're seeing from women in law enforcement as the numbers are hopefully starting to increase more. And what they talked about was some decreased use of force because of increased verbal skills. I think it's safe to say that we talk a lot. We all know each other. So okay, I get that one. But also that there's a real good rapport with female officers and victims of sex crimes or child victims, just having a different approach or communication style. But then also talks about better communication skills with the community. So Officer Dunn, talking about those communication skills with the community, how do you feel that your communication skills have benefited your relationship with our community?
So I definitely have personally experienced, especially my first few years on patrol, that certain victims of crimes, namely women and children, seem to be much more comfortable talking to me about what happened and giving me statements than they are talking to one of my bigger, possibly more intimidating male counterparts. So I definitely helped out with a number of the initial investigations for various sex crimes and domestic violence situations. And then anytime there was children involved, I would help out with that as well. Also, on the flip side of it, I've noticed that sometimes the presence of a woman can be very disarming to people. Maybe internally they don't necessarily think we could be as intimidating as a male. And I have, on a number of occasions, done a follow-up interview with a suspect that maybe one of my male partners just tried to do, and it was very combative. There's a lot of butting of heads.
Sure.
My male partner couldn't get a good statement out of the suspect, and then I go to talk to them, and because of that kind of disarming effect, all of a sudden the floodgates are open and they're just telling me everything that they did.
Disarming, but able to still do what you need to do.
Absolutely.
So keep in mind, folks, that you want your police department to be a reflection of your community. And if you think about your community, typically they're 50-50, women and men. So the police department should be a reflection of people within the community. So we do need to reflect the females in our community so that there is that, if they are more comfortable talking to a female, we have that opportunity for them. So another study that I was reading, I guess part of my job is reading a lot, was an article in the Police Chief magazine that talked about the women that they polled who were considering a career in law enforcement. About 46% of the women said the reason they were deterred or they weren't willing to try was because of the concern about the physical agility tests. So we do have physical agility tests. The tests are the same for men and women. Here at Gilbert PD, I think I've talked about this in other videos, I know I've talked about this in other videos because we're communicators, right? But our test here is a 1.5 mile run in 15 minutes and 48 seconds, 36 sit-ups in 1 minute, and then 20 push-ups that are untimed. So those are those minimum goals you want to do to be hired here at Gilbert PD. Now there are more strenuous tests that you will do when you go through a police training academy. For example, there is a dummy drag, which is a 165-pound dummy. You have to drag it 32 feet. There's a 99-yard obstacle course. There's a 500-yard kind of a dash, a sprint. And you have to do some jumping over walls. So what I want to talk about now is just sort of your tips or tricks. Just how did you prepare for the academy? Or what advice do you have for a female who has that intimidation factor of that physical aspect to help them overcome that, to not be part of that 46%, but to come on in here and join and kick butt like you ladies. So let's start off with you, Lieutenant. What advice can you give?
I would say run, weightlift, and run some more. But, you know, you really do need to train, and overtrained maybe to get there, because the academy itself, in and of itself, is a stressor. So if you can control being mentally prepared and being physically prepared, then you can deal with learning in the academy, and you're not also battling being in shape or not being in shape. So
Right.
I would say you need to exercise, you need to run flat surfaces, maybe run some hills, do some weightlifting, push-ups, sit-ups. If you can practice getting over a wall, I would recommend all of that.
I don't want to cut you off if you have some awesome advice. Do you have something
Nope,
for
I
them?
think you guys
on top?
covered it.
All right, fantastic. All right, so
I do have to add one thing.
Go for it.
If you have a sibling, and this is going out to my sister, my sister actually helped me with the dummy drag. She did not weigh 165 pounds, but the best thing we could do was for her to lay down and me drag her. And aside from the laughing, I think it helped prepare me.
all right, you heard it here. You heard it first. Drag your siblings. All right, so if there was one thing that you ladies had to say was the most challenging for you personally, just being a female in law enforcement, what would that be? Officer Dunn, let's start with you.
I really honestly think it's the pressure that we put on ourselves. I think I've noticed that a lot of the female recruits that I have mentored over the past couple years, and the female friends I've gained in law enforcement, that we seem to put an inordinate amount of pressure on ourselves and ridiculously high expectations that I don't necessarily see our male counterparts putting on themselves. So learning how to take that internal dialogue and that internal criticism that we seem to have for ourselves very often and make it productive, rather than just getting kind of trapped in it, and really setting it up so you're the only limiting factor. Your internal dialogue can really limit what you're able to do, because in reality you are far more physically capable than your brain even realizes.
It's fantastic. Kind of plays into what you said, Lieutenant, with just believing in yourself and getting there. So what do you find would be the most challenging for you if you had to choose one thing?
Well, that was actually on the top of my list, but also going to the bathroom.
Oh, that was my list. You took my thunder.
Well, I didn't know you were going to go there.
It's true.
Still.
It's true. We have to be honest. Talk
Yes.
about that a little bit.
Yes. Well, you wear a lot of equipment, and, not every bathroom has a little hook where you can hang your stuff, and it takes a long time, and there's nothing quick about going to the bathroom if you're a female officer.
You truly have to set up your belt that you can either balance that and have that perfect balance, but you have to have it just right, or you have to find that dry spot to put it. But I'm not going to lie, I am a little jealous of male officers and how quickly. You just hope that hot tone, that emergency call doesn't come out, and you've got to put yourself all back together. So good. All right. I'm glad someone else went there. So there are a couple hands-on experiences that the Gilbert Police Department offers. If you are interested or want to learn more about law enforcement, we do have the Cadet Program here. And that's not just for high school kids. That's for ages 14 to 20. So you can come here to Gilbert PD. You can work and provide community service to Gilbert and participate in police training. They do physical fitness tests. They go through all the certifications that a law enforcement officer will, to see how you perform on those tests and how you feel about the career as a whole. So if you're thinking about it, but you're not ready to commit with maybe putting your application in just yet, and you fall in that 14 to 20 year range, please check into that. We also have a Gilbert Citizens Police Academy. If you are outside of that range, you can come in here, take some courses, get tours, participate in some of our training and opportunities to learn a little bit more about law enforcement and see how your heart feels after that. We have a lot of support here at Gilbert PD. Don't forget that. If you join us here at Gilbert PD, we do have peer mentors, which you are both involved in. We have the peer support team, and we have other programs here that are accessible as far as like services, counseling, things like that, to just help you through your career and make sure you stay healthy and motivated there through your 25-year career. So we're going to end this on a much more positive note, other than our struggles with our uniforms. What would you say if you had to choose one thing that really has made this career meaningful and that you love the most about being a female in law enforcement? What would you say that is?
It's just fun. They're like, just plain and simple, this is a fun job. And every job that I've had in this department, whether it was a patrol officer, doing DUI investigations and responding to calls for service, if it was a bike officer patrolling downtown, and now as a canine handler, it's just fun. I come into work and I genuinely enjoy myself and actually have fun doing the job every day. It's unpredictable, it's exciting, and it's just fun.
Absolutely. Lieutenant, how about you?
I echo the sentiment there. It's fun, and you're working with a team, and you're never alone. And, much like Officer Dunn mentioned before, I think how my parents raised me was also having that servant attitude. And so it's very fulfilling to know that you could help somebody in crisis. And so it's a very fulfilling feeling.
Absolutely. For me, it's just the variety, kind of resonating on everything you ladies have said today. The career is what you make it. It's a 25-year career, and it can go beyond that, but you don't have the same experience every day, and you definitely don't have the same year. It's not like an office job or a job that it's you go in, it's routine, you know what you're going to do. You don't know what you're going to do from day to day, and just like Lieutenant Gunter, you can do as many different assignments as you'd like to do here, and always just have different experiences and grow and have new opportunities. So we hope this has answered a couple of your questions and hopefully given you some helpful information. Thank you, Lieutenant Gunter and Officer Dunn, for joining me today. Again, you can email me directly if you're looking for a female connection in law enforcement, or you have a follow-up question for either of our guest speakers today. And again, that's gpdrecruiting@gilbertaz.gov. Thank you all so much for coming, and have a great day. Hope to see you soon.